Okay, let's take a look at tenants. These are the people who are going to be renting from you in your rental properties. This is Desmond. He is just got this house. He's super excited about it, and he's going to be renting it out. And he needs to know which of these things is going to be the most important thing for him to consider when thinking about a new tenant. So the first thing let's look at is their good credit. So when a tenant applies for a property with you, they're going to be filling out a credit check to see whether or not they've got good credit or bad credit. Typically, 580 to 669 are considered fair, like okay, fine, whatever. Not great though. 670 to 739 are considered good. And this one right here, it shows 719 as being good. And really, most people consider 720 and over to be really good, excellent credit. And that's 800 and up are just like insanely great. But you're also just very cognizant of these people right here. So if they have bad credit, you may make them pay the first month's and last month's, maybe a bigger security deposit, all sorts of things like that in order to qualify them for the property. So question number one, tenant has terrible credit. They have a 540. They tell you it is because they had a medical bankruptcy a few years ago when with their battle with cancer. Everything else looks really good on their profile. Would you consider renting to this person? Take 45 seconds to answer that. All right. Slide number two, a solid rental history. This gives you a full picture of an applicant's past behavior, which can help you make informed decisions about when to offer a lease and when to pass. So, like their previous landlord, is always going to be a good one to talk to. However, just be aware that not always are you going to get the full story. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, I have a tenant and he's terrible and I want him out of my property and I've been trying to get him out for a while and he applies for your property. And you are like, oh, all this stuff looks pretty good about this person. And you reach out to me and say, hey, what do you think of this tenant? Um, I wouldn't lie to you, but I could see that other landlords might. They may say, oh, this guy's great, so that you will take him as a tenant. And once he's out of my property, I get possession of my property back, and he's not my problem anymore. Typically, the best rental history to check would be not the one that he's in right now, but the one before that, because that person really has no skin in the game anymore. They're no longer in your property. They can be completely honest with you, and if they were a terrible tenant, they're probably going to tell you, this guy is awful. Do not rent to this person. And so my property management company that works for me to manage my properties, they typically look at the last 2 to 3 landlords where this person has rented. Slide number 3, sufficient income. Multiply the total rent by 3. So if they are renting a property that is $1,500 a month, then they need to be grossing $4,500 in income to be able to qualify. If the result is less than the candidate's total monthly income, you may have a good prospect. Here's an example. Suppose that you rent a $2,800 per month and a prospective tenant's making $8,900 per month. So this basically shows you kind of how the rent calculus is of what you want. And the reason for this is that you don't want someone coming into your property and you think, and they say, oh, I make $3,000 a month, and you're doing the math, oh, well, the rent's only $1,500, but you have to consider taxes, you've got to consider groceries, you've got to consider a lot of things that they've got to spend money on. So you want to know that they make 3 times the income. They've got to have a positive criminal history check. Every landlord has the right to run a background check on applicants, but only if they have a signed document giving consent to do so. So you can't just run it on them without telling them. You want to make sure that your tenant is not a convicted felon or prone to destroying property during every tenancy. So that may also be part of what your neighbors are considering. Like, you got to think about the neighborhood. You can't just think about your house in particular. So if you rent this property to someone who's a convicted felon, and your neighbors who you're trying to have a good relationship with, like sometimes like my neighbors and some of my properties, they would actually look out for my house for me. Like if the tenant was throwing like a crazy party or whatever, they would alert me and say, hey, this person's really thrashing your house. So I want that relationship to be good. And it might not be good if I rent to somebody who's a drug dealer and has got all sorts of, suspect people coming by the house at all hours of the night and causing all sorts of problems. That neighborhood's not going to really like the fact that I rented to this person. So you have the right to decide if their criminal history comes back and it's not great. You can deny them based on convictions. So here is a story that a tenant tells you. I was 18 years old when I dropped off my friend at home and I was driving home. I got pulled over. My friend had left their backpack in the back seat, and then the police looked at it. They found drugs. I accepted a plea deal, basically saying like a lot of times you will accept a plea deal to plead down and not take a harsher sentence. I accepted a plea deal for the felony to avoid jail time. It was 11 years ago, and this felony follows me everywhere. And let's just assume this person has been in no other legal or criminal trouble since then. Would you consider renting to this person with a felony? I'll give you 45 seconds to answer that. Tough decision for sure. But let's go ahead and move on. So slide number 5 here. Does the person smoke? Tenants don't have a universal right to smoke in their rentals. There is no law, either state or federal, that provides people with the freedom to smoke when and where they want. So for me, the rental property is a smoke-free property, first of all. Secondly, smoke-free on the entire property. Like that means like the front and backyard. You're not going to smoke in the backyard and then walk into the house and bring all the smoke with you. I would not allow that. And so we have very specific rules on our leases that say you cannot smoke anywhere on the property. Also, if when I'm interviewing them or when we're checking them out, if I notice that they are smoking, and they say, oh, well, I always walk off the property to smoke, I don't want to deal with them anyway. I'm still going to be like, no. Like, if you are a smoker, that is a major, you could really cause damage to that property. When that person moves out, in order to get that property back to normal, you've got to usually have to paint and change all the carpet, which is going to be thousands of dollars because this person was a smoker. And so I just don't even deal with it anymore. If you are a smoker, I don't care if you're vaping, I don't care what you're doing. If you smoke at all on the property, I will evict you, or if after the fact that you already had acknowledged that you weren't a smoker. If you are smoking, if I notice any kind of smoke on you, I will not rent to you. And that's just, landlords have the right to do that. And you'll have to find a property that's lesser if that's the case. So pets, Texas does not have any specific tenant pet laws. Landlords can create their own rules for pets and put them in the lease. An authorized pet is grounds for eviction. Even this cute little puppy right here, grounds for eviction. And I've had that where I've had a tenant who said, well, this dog was abandoned and nobody was going to care for it. And I'm just trying to care for this wonderful dog. Look at this little cute puppy here. And I've said to them, I'm very sorry, but I'm not running a dog shelter. Like, you are not bringing the dog into the house. If you want to have a dog and you want to rescue every dog that you come across, find a property that will allow animals, or secondly, go buy your own house and then you can have whatever animals you want in there. Dogs are very destructive. They dig holes in the backyard, they chew on things inside the house. I one time had a tenant that moved out. They weren't supposed to have a dog in the property, and I caught them with the dog, and we were filing for eviction, and then they voluntarily moved out, which was like, thankfully. Then I got possession of the property, and when I went to walk through the property, there's a big old dog poop in one of the middle of the rooms. Like, walk along, I'm like, oh my gosh. And these people had the gall to say, where's our security deposit for this? Like, first of all, you brought a dog in, the amount of repairs it's going to take is going to exhaust your deposit. And secondly, you left a dog turd in one of the rooms. Totally like unacceptable. So and they were like, we're going to take you to court and blah. I said, great, go for it. When you do that, I'm going to countersue you for damages from this dog. And they were like, okay, never mind. And so, like, it's very frustrating to deal with people who don't act honestly. And dogs, we do allow dogs in our properties, but it's like heavily restricted with what they can and can't have, like the size of the dog, the temperament. Can't have like if an aggressive dog goes off the property and bites somebody, you could be liable as the landlord for that property. How insane is that? So you just have to realize that dogs, even this cute puppy here, can be a huge liability. What do you think could be more destructive to a property, a pet or a smoker? Both of them are very destructive. Go ahead and take 45 seconds to answer that. All right. Last slide. Slide number 7, too many occupants. You can set a limit to the number of people who can live in your rental as long as you comply with all the relevant housing laws. So basically what this means is, like, if the people move in and they claim it's husband and wife and 2 kids, and that's who the tenants are going to be, and I rent to you, that's all that can live there. Mom wants to move in, grandma wants to move in, and they move the kids into one bedroom or whatever in order to accommodate mom. That's not acceptable. I'm looking for grounds for eviction if that happens. Like, you cannot do that. If they want to add a tenant, they can go through the application process, because that person I'm now liable for that person. What if grandma has a felony? What if grandma is a smoker? What if grandma has a little dog that she wants to bring with her? Like, all of those things, that tenant has to go through the same screening process that I have for the current full tenants that are going to be in that property. So you can't say to me, oh, we just decided to add a roommate, or we decided to add this or add that. That is too many occupants, and I would file for not bankruptcy, for foreclosure. All right, thanks.